what do you think is the biggest mistake students make in their scholarship application process?
Probably not applying to enough scholarships. I think it's easy to apply to a few scholarships and not hear back and give up hope, but it's a volume game, and there are many, many scholarships out there. There are national scholarships that you can apply to that tend to have bigger award amounts, but looser eligibility requirements. And then there are a host of hyper local scholarships that might be open to students in your high school, your county, or a specific club that you're in, or to flautists or whatever kind of different split of students there are. So I would say cast a wide net and also apply throughout your student journey. We have scholarships on our platform for high school freshmen through grad students. So it's never too early or too late to start applying to scholarships.
Hey everyone, my name's Kira, and welcome back to an extra special episode of Office Hours. That's because today I'll be interviewing Will Geiger, who you probably recognize as the host of this podcast, along with his brother Brian Geiger. We'll dive into the story behind starting Scholarships 360 and some advice for students on how to achieve scholarship success. So, welcome, Will and Brian. Super excited to chat with you guys today.
Yeah, fun to be on the other side of the desk and the interview for this.
Yeah,
Excited for
honored to
us.
be a guest.
So, to start off, do you guys, real quick, want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, so quick background. Will, one of the co-founders of Scholarships 360, began my career in college admissions actually at Kenyon College, where kind of did everything from reading applications, visiting high schools, helping to market the college. I ran the merit scholarship program. So, it was kind of a jack of all trades, and then went to the other side of the desk and worked at a high school in Connecticut as a college counselor, where I was able to guide students and families through the admissions process. Through all that time, I was also working on Scholarships 360 as a side project, and it's been exciting and fun to work with Brian on this as a full-time gig since for the past like 5 or 6 years.
And I'm Brian. I'm Will's younger brother, and did not have a career in higher education. Started my career in finance and then technology at a company called TopTal that was a talent marketplace. A lot of what I learned at TopTal in terms of matching talent to different job opportunities ended up being super translatable to what we're doing at Scholarships 360. And I've been full time on Scholarships 360 for the past 6 years.
Awesome. Well, let's back things up all the way to 2010. Can you guys tell me about where you were at and what made you decide to start your blog about finding scholarships, which is where Scholarships 360 all began, really?
Yeah, so I just graduated from Wake Forest. Did an internship in Washington D.C. over the summer. Was looking for a job, moved back home, so I was living in my childhood bedroom. Brian was a high school junior at the time, and just starting to think about the college admissions process, and sort of realized that we're 5 years apart. Not like a ton had changed as far as like scholarship guidance and resources. Still kind of clunky and messy, and difficult. We're first generation college students, so paying for college is a big part of our process. So we just decided to create a simple WordPress blog to help profile different scholarship opportunities for students and vet those opportunities. Um, I was applying for jobs in college admissions, and thought it'd be good for my resume. I think for Brian also, something for the college resume, and it was just more importantly just like something fun, to build and to do. But it came from that very personal pain point of looking for scholarships and just trying to pay for college. So we ran that as a side project for a number of years. Actually, our mom got involved as well, which was really fun. And yeah, over about a decade, we grew it to reaching hundreds of thousands of people a year. And Brian, maybe I'll pass it along to you to kind of talk about the kind of V2 of the business when we transitioned from more part-time, like side gig hobby to a full-time thing?
Yeah. In 2021, I believe it was, went full time and went from being a content site and newsletter to a logged in account experience where students could actually get matched to scholarships. And uh, since then, have grown the capabilities of the platform to host applications and support scholarship providers that way. Each step in the evolution of the business all centered around, as we've gotten more resources, how can we better support the student behind the keyboard looking for scholarships and make the process a little less painful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just generally curious to know where the name Scholarships360 comes from.
I We were looking for something that was like kind of official, that it was like 360, like comprehensive. There wasn't like a ton. We didn't go through, like, to my recollection, Brian, like a ton of iterations of different names, and that's we thought that this would be like a good trusted brand. We actually originally had another domain we bought, admissions 360. I think it was a little bit over ambitious to have multiple trying to launch multiple websites. Um, and yeah, we got scholarship360.org. We could not afford the .com domain, and the first version of the logo was actually like kind of cool. It had like this like kind of shadow like design effect that was actually just the actual shadow, because we printed something up and then took a picture of it on a digital camera. That's like how old this is. So that was the first version of the logo. So yes, very 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 humble beginnings. We wanted a name just to show, trust and, a comprehensive, thorough solution for students.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's really crazy to see how far it's all come, just in, since becoming a blog to now this awesome resource that students can use. So, shifting gears a little bit, I'd love to know, in your opinion, what's the biggest myth in higher education that you think needs to be debunked?
I think the biggest myth, and this is something I ask a version of this question to podcast guests, and I'd say, I don't know, maybe like 70% of them have this take, is that the sticker price is what students pay. I know, like, recently one school, I don't want to single them out, has just like crossed the $100,000 threshold as far as like an all-in cost. But when for the average student, that's not necessarily what they'll pay. There's need-based financial aid and institutional scholarships and outside scholarships. So I think that while there's this narrative that college is so expensive and that everyone is just in a ton of debt, I think, in reality, that's like not necessarily the case. And for most students, I think there are very affordable options available to them, where they can get a great education at an affordable price point with minimal student loans. So, I think that that's one thing, for Brian and I, we've observed, is that there is like this just like informational gap and like a shoppability gap when it comes to higher ed. So we want to equip students and families as consumers with just better information tools and resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And as students start to get their acceptance letters from college, what advice would you give to students who are getting nervous about affording school?
Yeah, I think reading the acceptance letters and the financial aid award letters really carefully. I think it's, in the award letter front, it can be kind of challenging just because there's not a standard format for award letters. So they all might look a little bit different. They might explain things a little bit differently. But we can drop this in the show notes, where there's a really great study by I forget which think tank that analyzed like financial aid award letters. And it was just like pretty shocking, the how many different ways schools could phrase like different types of loans or different types of financial aid. So I think reading through them very carefully. If you have questions, I think financial aid officers at the schools you've been admitted to can be really great resources. I think, make sure you've completed all the necessary financial aid, tasks and documents, before FAFSA, CSS profile, and, as well as, applying for outside scholarships that you can find on Scholarship 360. And then last, I think at this point, when it is like later on in the year, There sometimes are opportunities to appeal for more financial aid if your situation has changed, or maybe you've gotten merit scholarships from other schools. This is not always going to be the case, and for example, if you're looking to get like merit scholarships at a highly selective school that do not offer merit scholarships, like that's probably not going to be a successful process for you. But there definitely are opportunities just to advocate for yourself. So yeah, those would be my tips for students.
Yeah, and obviously, as a scholarship platform, we've dealt with a lot of students who are applying to scholarships. And I think a new thing that everyone is experiencing is the impact of AI in, all sectors of life. But I'd love to know, your guys' thoughts on how AI is impacting students applying to scholarships.
Yeah. For the applicant, I think it's something to be aware of. Some providers might have language that screens out AI generated applications. Other providers might not have a firm or explicit policy around it. We award our own scholarships. We work with organizations that award scholarships. And talking to the people on selection committees, I think part of the joy of selecting and awarding scholarships is making a difference in a real person's life. And it's harder for your individuality to come through if your essays have like ChatGPT voice. So I think it's can be a useful tool for drafting scholarship essays and putting together an application, but you really want like yourself to come through in your final materials.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious to know if you guys were both current high school students, what would be the first step in your scholarship journey?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think to like reframe it a little bit, I like to think about this more in terms of affordability. I think when we look at scholarships, a lot of scholarships will be more available for students the closer they get to going to college. So Scholarships360 like helps you stay organized, helps you find the best fit opportunities as you get closer to the end of senior year. There will be some scholarships for underclassmen as well. Just that's going to be a little bit, there's going to be less volume of those opportunities. And so if you're starting the process with affordability in mind, I think, you know, having a good understanding in your family, just what like financial like expectations look like as far as like contributions to college, as far as like what type of financial aid you might be eligible for. There's a really great tool, the net price calculator. Technically, it's a separate tool on every college's website. Some of them are hard to find. But every school that receives federal financial aid, it's legally required to have a net price calculator. And the cool thing about the calculator is that will give you an early read of what financial aid, and in some cases, sometimes merit scholarships that you might be eligible for. So that would probably be my recommendation. Like, do the net price calculator for a handful of schools that you might find interesting, or just schools in your area. I think picking different types of colleges, it's a good exercise. Like here, live in New Jersey. I think it would be worthwhile to do one for Rutgers, the public university, do one for Princeton, and then do one for Monmouth University, which is like one of a smaller private school that's near where I live. And that will just give you a good sense of the spectrum of financial aid that's available to you. But I think having those conversations, having that information earlier on is just really, really important. Um, and then I think just, making sure you're taking, the most, challenging classes in your school and applying yourself. Freshman, sophomore year still matter a lot. I know students sometimes don't start thinking about college until junior, senior year. And it doesn't mean you need to be like so fixated on going to college from like day one of high school, but all of those grades, you know, um, things you're taking advantage of, they do matter. You're just going to put yourself in a better position as far as scholarships and your college options. So that would probably be my advice for younger students who are looking to get ahead.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. Um, what do you think, on that kind of similar note, is the biggest mistake students make in their scholarship application process?
Probably not applying to enough scholarships. I think it's easy to apply to a few scholarships and not hear back and give up hope, but it's a volume game, and there are many scholarships out there. There are national scholarships that you can apply to that tend to have bigger award amounts but looser eligibility requirements. And then there are a host of hyper local scholarships that might be open to students in your high school, your county, or a specific club that you're in, or to flautists or whatever kind of different split of students there are. Um, so I would say cast a wide net and also apply throughout your student journey. We have scholarships on our platform for high school freshmen through grad students. So it's never too early or too late to start applying to scholarships.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we talk about that a lot with our platform. The great thing is that you get connected to those local scholarship opportunities, which is a really key thing to do if you're trying to implement strategy into your scholarship search. And so on that note, do you have any other tips when it comes to developing a scholarship strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the cool things, not to keep plugging our Scholarships360, but we created this just to try to take away some of the heavy lifting for students, is that the sort of algorithm will rank scholarships according to the best matches for you. So, to piggyback off of what Brian was saying, definitely, you need to take enough shots on goal, so to speak, to have a chance of winning. But in terms of prioritizing your time, trying to prioritize your time towards those scholarships that you are the best fit for, I think is prudent. Well, students always ask us about the matching process, and we have, we're asking you quite a few questions in the onboarding. We use that to match students to different scholarship opportunities. There's only so many questions that we could ask. Like, I know Brian got a scholarship from the Jimmy Hoffa scholarship from our dad's labor union, and we're not like asking students every single like professional association that your parents have, for instance. So I do think it's a useful exercise to like take a step back, and like you can do this in like a Google Doc or on a piece of paper, and like, think about what are what are your interests, what are, aspects of your background, what are different associations that you or your family might have. Um, where do you live? What are your goals in college or career wise? And this can give you like a really just great list of things that can sort of start a research process. So, maybe through your parents' employer, there's a particular scholarship for children of employees. Like maybe there's scholarships through your church. Maybe there's scholarships through your local PTA, or for students in your local community. Maybe there's scholarships if you're interested in a particular career for students who intend to go into that career. I think that can be like a really great place to start. And then, on Scholarships 360, we also have tons of different types of lists, based off of students' interests and background and experiences, and goals. And so that could also be a really great strategy. So I think like our web app will do like 80% of the heavy lifting. And then I think it's smart for students to sort of think through what makes them unique, to find that the last like 20% of scholarships. We As Brian mentioned, it's been really cool, like bringing on like external scholarship providers and schools and community organizations. And like one of the interesting things about that is some of these organizations, they're like scholarships are through like, paper PDFs or through Google Docs. So, we try very hard to have every scholarship on our platform, but there are probably plenty that we don't have. So, like going in and asking your guidance counselor at school, I think is another great place. They might be aware of like local scholarships that just really aren't marketing their scholarships far and wide. Um, I think that's our platform. We definitely try to include local scholarships, but a lot of local organizations, like they don't need to like market those opportunities, and they don't necessarily like worry about getting in front of students because their opportunity is so specific and local. So that's just another tip. And the best part of those opportunities is they just tend to be a little bit less competitive, just because it might be for students in your town or in your county or for your high school, versus being open to every student essentially in the country.
Yeah. I know we're really excited to have some of those more niche scholarship opportunities hosted on Scholarships 360. I'd love to know kind of what you think sets the platform apart, not only for students, obviously, but also for scholarship providers.
For students, I would say we have invested a lot in the matching algorithm, making sure we're helping you prioritize your time. I guess the flip side of apply to a lot of scholarships is managing your time well and applying to ones that matter. So we try to help you there by both sorting scholarships effectively and then like screening out ones that aren't a good fit for you. For the scholarship providers, I think the big benefit of Scholarships 360 is we're kind of handling all of the marketing and outreach for you rather than trying to generate applications. We hear from some providers, which might be surprising to some people, but they sometimes complain that they don't get enough qualified applicants per cycle. Um, but the benefit of hosting on Scholarships 360 for those providers is you are tapping into a pool of 1.5 million students who are actively looking for scholarships. And it's really satisfying to hear from providers that oftentimes their winners are students who found the scholarship and often applied through Scholarships 360.
Yeah, I think to echo all of that, and then we've been investing a lot into bringing more scholarships like on platform. That's a big piece of feedback we get from students, is sort of creating like the common app for scholarships, where companies and nonprofits and everyone else who's interested in launching a scholarship can do that through Scholarships 360. It's been cool just for them. They get access to this like great technology and like marketing. And as Brian said, we're helping them find like the best fit students so they can support great kids who are looking to further their future. Um, and then I think something else for us, on the content side, we've invested a lot into, creating, I think, really best in class, written and now video content. I know, Kira, you're a big part of that. And as part of that process, we also have an educational review board. So these are access and admissions professionals who are actually fact checking and reviewing content just to ensure that it's according to best practices in the industry. And that's really important to us, just because students are making these in some cases, financial decisions for something that can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars over 4 years. And we just want to make sure that they have access to good advice. And, unfortunately, the, average like student to counselor ratio in the US is it's like over 300 students per counselor, and counselors do really great work. But, some of them, you know, their caseload demands just like don't allow them to provide as much personalized support as they might like, and as many students may need in this process.
Yeah, it's been really great to help develop some of those resources for students. I know that I would have found them really helpful as a student. Just the college admissions process can be so overwhelming. So I've always really loved that Scholarships 360 just breaks it down as such absorbable and approachable little bite-sized pieces between our video and our web content.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap things up, let's look towards the future a little bit. I'd love to know, on as far as you guys know, what's next for Scholarships 360. Is there anything users can look forward to?
Yeah, I would say that we have invested a lot in the tool and the matching and our scholarship database. The big focus going forward is adding value through partnerships and working with more and more scholarship providers to bring more scholarship applications on the platform. We do look at every piece of user feedback that comes in, either through email or our intake form, and we hear resoundingly from users that they love applying to scholarships through the platform and don't love clicking off the platform and applying to scholarships on different websites. So hear you there. We're working on bringing on more providers, and then on the college partner side, working to bring on more college partners and building off Will's comments from earlier, just making the true cost of college more transparent for our users so they can make better informed decisions on their future.
Yeah, and we didn't touch a lot on. I guess that would be something else where distinguishes Scholarships 360 and talk a lot about the college partnerships. But we work with right now it's a couple dozen and growing college and university partners to help them share merit scholarship opportunities, and for schools that might just be investing in need-based financial aid, communicate that to students earlier on in the process, just so students are a little bit more aware of financial aid, fee waivers, and just like the different ways these colleges are investing in affordability. So we want to kind of get at that narrative that college is too expensive, and elevate some partners that we think are doing a really good job as far as investing in affordability.
Yeah, I know that feature is really exciting, being able to now kind of match students with colleges as well as scholarships is really neat. So, yeah, I'm super excited to see how that one develops as well. But yeah, that was most of my questions. It was super nice
Yeah,
to
it's just
hear a
fun to
little
hear.
bit more about the background of Scholarships 360, about both of your backgrounds, and I look forward to everything that we're gonna get up to with Scholarships 360 soon, and look forward to the next guest on Office Hours to hear some more insights on college education.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
for
so much
hosting.
for hosting, Carrie. You did a great job.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode of Office Hours with Will Geiger. If you're a student or parent, don't forget to check out app.scholarships360.org, where you can sign up for our free scholarship matching platform. For colleges, we've got solutions to make your work easier, which you can check out at connect.scholarships360.org. And one last thing, if you or someone you know would make a great guest on the show, I'd love to hear from you. You can always reach me by email or on LinkedIn. Until next time, thanks again for listening.